Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Tax Matters. Friday, May 27 was Children's Day in Nigeria, and one of the highlights of the recently held 24th Annual Tax Conference was the 8th Annual Tertiary Institutions Tax Quiz Competition. And so, we are bringing you the story of that competition as our Children's Day special.
Danfodio?
46.
46. Income earned by a person who is employed by another person is taxed under which tax system? A. Self-assessment. B. Protective assessment. C. Summary assessment. D. Pay as you earn.
Option D.
Well, you may say these are not children, but they are youths, so we are in order. Wait for it. It's now June, brand new month. At the end of this month, the year will be split right down the middle, and you know what that means for limited liability companies who by law pay companies' income tax to the FIRS. For companies whose accounting year end is January to December, the Companies Income Tax Act provides that by the end of June of the succeeding year, they should file and pay their due company's income tax. If you are in that category, are you ready? Are you ready? You have barely 3 weeks to go. Now, we must re-emphasize that under CITA, accounting year is the company's choice as long as it is 12 months. Could be September to August, could be April to March, could be January to December. Whichever you choose, your company's income tax is due 6 months after accounting year end. Only banks are compelled to use January to December. My name is Chiamaka Hauchi, and I assure you that the next 25 minutes will be an interesting journey into the world of taxation in Nigeria. We have 2 public notices in our hands, and we want to share them with you. Pursuant to sections 2, 8, 26 and 29 of the FIRS Establishment Act 2007 as amended, notice is hereby given to all taxable persons or tax agents, including NGOs, MDAs of governments at federal, state, and local levels that the Federal Inland Revenue Service shall embark on a nationwide VAT and withholding tax compliance monitoring exercise with effect from July 1st, 2022. As a result, teams of officers from the service shall visit selected taxpayers, taxable persons, including companies, NGOs, or MDAs to review their VAT and withholding tax records. The exercise shall cover 2016 to 2020 accounting years for taxable persons whose records have been audited by the service up to 2015 accounting year. However, for taxpayers whose records have not been audited by the service up to 2015, the exercise shall be extended to include the prior years that have not been tax audited. All taxable persons or tax agents who have made deductions of VAT and withholding tax on behalf of the service are required to immediately remit all such deductions to the FIRS within 2 weeks of this publication. Taxable persons or tax agents who shall be visited for the VAT and withholding tax compliance monitoring exercise will be notified by the FIRS, and the documents required for the exercise will be listed in the letter to selected entities. For more enquiries, contact National Tax Compliance 2021 at firs.gov.ng. The second public notice in our hands is on non-remittance of VAT and withholding tax by states and local governments. Pretty much the same matter, but now concerning states and local governments who statutorily act as agents of deduction for VAT and withholding tax from payments due to contractors. This is to notify all the states and local governments of the Federation and the general public that the Federal Inland Revenue Service will commence the process of enforcement and recovery of unremitted tax deductions owed by some states and local governments in Nigeria. The provisions of Section 78 subsection 3, 79 subsection 3 and 81 of the Companies Income Tax Act and Sections 9 subsection 1, 13 subsection 1 of the Value Added Tax Act mandates ministries, departments and agencies of governments, parastatals and other establishments to deduct withholding tax and VAT while making payments to third parties and remit same to the service. By the provisions of the relevant laws, states and local governments are statutorily mandated as agents of collection to deduct at source and remit to the service all taxes deducted within 21 days. However, it is regrettable to note that most of the states and local governments have failed in their responsibilities of remitting withholding tax and value-added tax deducted from payments made to contractors and service providers as required by law. The implication is the huge tax debt owed by the states and local governments. Consequently, the FIRS has resolved to take the following steps to recover all unremitted tax deductions by the states and local governments. 1. Advise the federal government and the Honorable Minister of Finance to henceforth decline approval of any request for A. Issuance of state bonds and other securities in the capital market. B. Request for external borrowing. And C. Approval for domestic loans from commercial banks and other financial institutions by any of the states and local governments with outstanding unremitted tax deductions. 2. By publicly naming and shaming defaulting states and local governments with the amount of unremitted tax deductions. And 3. Invoke the provisions of Section 24 of the FIRS Establishment Act 2007 as amended, which empowers the Accountant General of the Federation to deduct at source from the monthly FAC allocations unremitted taxes due from any government agency and thereafter transfer such deductions to the Federation account and notify the service. Finally, the service admonishes all defaulting states and local governments to promptly remit all unremitted tax deductions within 30 days of this publication to avoid enforcement actions. To be forewarned is to be forearmed.
Do you provide goods and services? Then you must answer these important questions. Are you registered for VAT? Do you charge VAT on the goods and services you provide? Do you keep records of all your transactions? Do you file VAT returns? Do you remit VAT collected to government coffers? If your answer to any of these questions is no, then you are breaking the law. The law demands total compliance. Therefore, you must register for VAT. You must charge VAT on goods and services. You must file VAT returns. And you must remit all VAT collected on behalf of government within 21 days to the bank nearest to you. To do otherwise is a crime punishable everywhere in the world. VAT is prescribed by the law. Do the right thing. Collect and pay VAT. This message is from the FIRS. It pays to pay your tax.
You are still watching Tax Matters, and today we want to go back to share with you more stories from the 24th Annual Tax Conference. A very good outing if you ask us. As you saw at the beginning, one of the highlights of the conference was the tax quiz competition for tertiary institutions, the 8th in the series.
This is the National Tax Quiz competition where we will be having competition among those that were qualified at the zonal level. We need to groom the younger ones to be part of what we are doing?
There are 6 institutions that have made it to the final of this event. So I'll quickly go through the rules of the event. The quiz proper is going to be 5 rounds. The rule is that each question provides you 5 points. If you miss the question, it is gone. No bonus points. Once you miss it, it is gone. We have questions from 1 to 95. So, Ahmadu Bello University, I won't be calling your names anymore. I'll just address you by your school. So, Ahmadu Bello University, you are number 1. Pick your questions from options 1 to 95. Finally, a rule. You have just 60 seconds to provide your answer. Time out after then, you lose your points. 1 to 95, the floor is open.
Yeah, okay. Question 15.
Question number 15. The following are the incentives granted companies engaged in the utilization of associated gas under Petroleum Profit Tax Act 2004, except
option D.
Correct answer. Bayero University, Kano.
Question 4.
Which of the following is not an allowable deduction for tax purposes?
Option D.
Option D. Correct. Obafemi Awolowo University.
Question 8.
Under the Companies Income Tax Act, Cap 21 LFN 2004, as amended, which one of the following is an allowable expenditure for tax purposes? A, any sum recoverable under an insurance or contract of indemnity.
C.
Incorrect. Redeemers University.
Question 10.
Question 10. Under the Stamp Duties Act, which one of the following does not fall under fixed duties?
D. Option D.
Incorrect answer. University of Ilorin.
Question 5.
Question number 5. Which of these is not a limitation to efficient tax administration? A, inadequate funding of tax authorities. B, tax evasion. C, poor governance. D, voluntary compliance.
Option D. D.
Correct answer. Usman Danfodio University, Sokoto.
Question 12.
What is the tenure of members of the Tax Appeal Tribunal?
Option D.
D. Correct answer.
At the end of round 1, Obashola Mohammed, Olawale, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, 5 points. Olarungbe Lukman, Olamileko, Bayero University, 5 points. Oluwaseun Adefusi, OAU Ife, 0 points. Ore Oluwa Ajuwon, Redeemers University, 0 points. Stephen Ajitone, University of Ilorin, 5 points. Salahuddin Sadiq, Usmanu Danfodio University, Sokoto, 5 points.
As planned and as announced by the quiz master at the beginning, there were 5 rounds. A few more excerpts from the other rounds.
Redeemers University.
Question 6.
Under the Personal Income Tax Act, which one of the following is central in determining a taxpayer's relevant tax authority?
C. Residence.
Ilorin.
Question 25.
What is the estimated tax life of a qualifying capital expenditure with annual allowance rate of 10%?
C. 10 years.
Moving on. Third round. Right.
75.
You work at Nike and Ifoma LLP, a professional services firm. Your employer wishes to organize a seminar on companies' income taxes regime in Nigeria. Your supervisor asks you to go through the database of the firm's clients and send an invite to all affected clients. Which of these clients will not get an email?
Option A.
Option A. Wow. Bayero, Kano, your question.
Question 20.
Prior to VAT Modification Order 2021, which of the following is zero rated under the Value Added Tax Act?
Option D. Non-oil export.
Obafemi.
Question 35.
Mark Limited purchased a machine on 1st July 2018 for 1,580,000, and the machine was sold on the 28th of September 2021 for 850,000. While the tax written down value as at the time of disposal was 97,500. What is the balancing adjustment?
B. Balancing charge of 750 to 500.
Good.
Now, the fifth and final round.
I guess this is the final round.
95.
95. Allowable deductions under Personal Income Tax Act include contributions to pension, provident, or other retirement benefit fund or scheme recognized under which act?
E.
Bayero University, Kano.
Question 28.
An action whereby a taxpayer minimizes the tax liabilities through illegal means is known as?
Tax evasion. D.
Obafemi.
Question 31.
Investment allowance is granted on qualifying capital expenditure incurred on?
A.
Redeemers.
32.
An example of indirect tax on spending expected to be borne by the final consumer of goods and services is known as A. Development levy, B. Stamp duties, C. Value added tax, D. Capital gains tax.
C.
Okay.
Value added tax.
Ilorin.
Question 1.
The following are instruments that attract fixed duties under the Stamp Duties Act, except A. Joint venture agreement, B. Certificate of occupancy, C. Non-life insurance policy, D. Debenture trust deed.
C. Non-life insurance policy.
Usman Danfodio.
22.
The notice of a tax appeal must precisely state the following grounds of objection, except?
Option D.
This is the end of the fifth round.
And then the results.
Now, the overall results for each candidate. Obashola Mohammed Olawale in total had 10 points all. Olarugbe Lukman Olamilekan BUK Kano had a total of 15 points. Oluwaseun Adeposi OAU Ife had a total of 10 points. Ore Oluwa Ajuwa Redeemers University had a total of 20 points. Stephen Ajitone, University of Ilorin, had a total of 25 points. Salahuddin Sadiq Usmanu Danfodio University Sokoto had a total of 15 points. So now with this result, we have the candidate for the first position and a candidate for the second position, but we do not have that for the third position because we have a tie between Olarungbe Lukman Olamileko, 15 points, and Salahuddin Sadiq, also 15 points. So both of them will have to go for another round to break that tie.
To break the tie took another 3 rounds.
So we have Bayero University Kano and Usman Danfodio University Sokoto contesting for the third prize in this competition. Please pick your question. Bayero.
48.
Dividend received by a Nigerian company from another Nigerian company after deduction of withholding tax is referred to as
D.
Usman Danfodio University.
69.
Which of these methods is not listed in Nigeria's transfer pricing regulations?
Option A.
At the end of round 8, Olarungbe Lukman Olabileko and BUK Kanu got 5 points. Then for round 8, Salahuddin Sadiq Usmanu Danfodio University got 0 points. So with the results, the third position goes to Olarungbe Lukman Olabileko with a total of 25 points. The second position is Oreoluwa Ajuwa Redeemers University with a total of 20 points. Stephen Ajitone, University of Ilorin, first position with a total of 25 points.
You enjoyed that, didn't you? The quiz competition was witnessed by the full complement of the CITN ESCOs and Council. You may ask, what is the idea behind the National Task Quiz competition?
The purpose of this quiz is to stimulate the interest of students in taxation as a course of study. We provide a platform for intellectual interaction among students at the grassroots level, promote greater awareness of the relevance and importance of taxation in meeting societal inequity, emphasize the need to change our dependency from natural resources to revenue generation from taxation, and to provide a platform for intellectual interaction among students, tax practitioners, and policy makers.
CITN is taking tax education to the grassroots, and the tax quiz competition has given us a leverage to do this. ANTAS, Annual Tertiary Institution Tax Quiz Competition, and Secondary School Tax Quiz Competition are all geared towards Catch Them Young initiative to raise future tax professionals right from the universities and polytechnics.
It behoves on us as leaders to ensure that this issue of tax is integrated into our system. We should get tax to a level where it becomes a household conversation. We should get tax to a level where we cannot talk about 2 or 3 things without mentioning tax. We should get tax to a level where tax governance should even become one of the things that we should be looking out for, where we are talking about board of directors, where we are talking about leadership within the institute. And I remembered vividly that at the level of national tax policy, we made that very clear, that you don't aspire to become a leader in this country without us knowing what your tax policy framework or what your tax direction will look like before we ask you to take charge for the next 4 years.
Prizes were awarded to winners at the gala night that rounded off the annual tax conference.
And the winner is no other person than Stephen Ajitoni from University of Ilorin.
So much happened at the 24th Annual Tax Conference. It was indeed an intellectual feast, a forum for networking and an avenue for participants to let their heads down. And so, there is still more coming your way from the 24th Annual Tax Conference. Time to go on to this episode, but before then, this final one. The CITN held its statutory annual general meeting on the 1st of June. One of the highlights of the event was the election into the council that saw 37 members returning and a new one elected into council. We congratulate them all. We wish them well, and we wish you all our viewers the very best in this month of June and in the months ahead. Let's roll together again next week on this same station, same day of the week, same time of the day. Thank you for watching.